and gentlemen, to yet another exciting episode of the Visionaries in AI powered by Sales Digital Dialouges. As we all know, that AI is transforming industries across the globe, unlocking unprecedented opportunities for growth, innovation, and efficiency. However, as its adoption accelerates, so does the risk levels. With global AI investments projected to reach 500 billion by 2025, the promise of AI must be carefully balanced with the need for effective risk management, ethical governance, and resilience strategies. And that's exactly what we're going to do in today's episode. Focus and delve into these aspects. The Visionaries in AI series is dedicated to exploring real-world impact and strategic implications of AI. And today, we're joined by Jenny Tong, a trailblazing leader in the AI and risk management space. With C-level experience across multiple domains, including risk management, business resilience, and governance, Jenny is uniquely positioned to address the critical risks that come with AI adoption. As a founder of the She Leads Tech at ISCA Singapore and a member of the Artificial Intelligence Taskforce AI Subcommittee, Jenny brings deep insights into how AI technologies must be governed and mitigated for a long-term success. Thank you very much, Jenny, for joining us on this episode.
Thank you. Thank you, Kanchi, for having me here.
Well, Jenny, I'm totally excited to delve into the risk aspect of AI with you. So let's begin by picking your brain on the strategic perspectives of AI risk. As a leader with extensive experience across risk management and business resilience, how do you perceive the evolving risks associated with the widespread adoption of AI technologies in critical industries?
I think this topic may have been touched on by a lot of other professionals, but I still think it's worthwhile to repeat it for our audience here. I think first of all, we have to consider AI will pose quite a fair bit of cybersecurity risk in what we do, because as AI integrates with the operations, there will be lots of unknown. Yeah. So, from a speed perspective, from a data perspective, from a bot perspective, AI-driven kind of applications can really affect the way that we work. So, for cybersecurity risk, I think it is still in its infancy stage. That cybersecurity professionals are still learning how to cope with it. Yeah. So other than cybersecurity, which may have been overemphasized everywhere, but yet, like I said, it's a good reminder that we have to rethink about it, because that's how organizations would have to manage it. Yeah, because every organization functions very differently, and every organization deploys the AI technology very differently as well. So having said that, early on, I did mention about, AI integrating with operations. So the other aspect of the risk that I suggest organizations to take note of is truly the operational risk itself. Yeah. So what does it mean? So like, for instance, if the organization depends on AI technologies to drive its business, then, you can imagine the whole supply chain of the AI technology driving that operational business cannot have any faulty downtime kind of issues, right? Challenges, because the impact that it causes is just too much for an organization to even survive, right? And there could be also other implication on operational aspects, such as not just the technology portion, but how the technology affect the human being side of things as well. Yeah, if you depend so much on that. The third aspect, I would say that this is something that is very, very key in my view. It's about the data privacy portion. Yeah. So how can we ensure that all the training data is all legit, it's all unbiased, yeah, it's all very transparent? How do we ensure that the trainer in putting up the training data, it's ethical as well, right? Because For organizations, they may not have the resources to see through end to end. So they may tap onto existing tools to deploy such mechanism. And when you tap into existing tools, you just don't have control over who has developed this particular tool, right? So there are such ethical risks involved in the background, I would say. Yeah. Other than that, I think organizations need to consider regulatory compliance risk if you fall into a regulated industry. The other one that I think is the most critical one at this moment is talent, because AI being so new, while everyone is talking about it, I can guarantee you 80% of everyone talking about it has only understanding a small portion of what AI is all about. Yeah. So in that sense, there are really a huge gap in terms of talents in this particular industry, as well as in this technical topic. So I would say that if we can address this issue faster than slower, then perhaps we have time to catch up with all the risks. But taking a step back, if you recall, before AI, we had all these IoT, we had RPA, we have others, So everyone is still learning, and before anyone can really grasp the mechanics of that particular tool, a new tool came about. And with AI, I think it is here to stay longer than the rest of the tools, but it is also meaning that the depth of the AI technicalities, it's really quite broad and quite wide. So I'm a little bit concerned with that if our talent pool cannot catch up with the development of the technology.
Well, Jenny, your insights are quite far for the course, and you've actually outlined the data privacy issue, having the data and the right kind of frameworks and guardrails in place to drive the right kind of outcomes from the data in an unbiased pattern. The talent pool developing in such a way that people can understand the impact of technology, decipher how it works, and generate the best kind of results that AI can bring forward in an adequate manner. So that's an amazing set of insights. Since we've already touched upon the ethical and the governance bit, let's sort of deep dive into that and talk about the challenges that organizations face in establishing frameworks and governance structures. What is it that boards and leadership teams can do to proactively address concerns around developing these frameworks and structures?
I think, first of all, the basic principles of good governance, regardless of the technology type, should still be there. So that means the tone at the top has to be right. So what I find challenging is that the board or the senior management, they may not have the right mix of the people on the board. Like it or not, board is there to steer how the management works towards the strategies. So their priorities is still, making business. There must be, business performance. Technology is augmentation. So that's where, regardless how technology has evolved so fast, the board mix, the board compositions haven't been able to move that fast. Having said that, the other thing is also back to what I mentioned earlier, that there is a shortage of talents understanding such technologies. So when there is an existing shortage, how do you expect board members, generally who are more seniors, maybe 20, 30 years ahead of you, but their training is behind you, 20, 30 years behind you, right? So it takes even more challenges to equip them with the right knowledge and expectations of how to govern it. So assuming, let's say, the board recognizes all these facts, and they may have, brought in professionals or advisors to help them set all these things. So earlier on, you mentioned about, having an AI standards, governance framework, etc., right? So other than the European Union side, where they have a fair bit of AI Act and regulations being rolled out, the whole world is still, not mature yet, and a lot of unstandardization everywhere. So in this case, if you are looking at how to set up framework, I would think that it's back to the basic again. Let's have the board endorse on a set of principles. Yeah, the set of principles may include a framework where the basic integrity of things, the basic general controls of expectations has to be there. But what AI has in addition to other types of technology is perhaps the ethical portion, because of how it is supposed to mimic human behavior and intelligence. So that portion plus the voluminous data that it depends on to learn, that's where I think the board has to recognize that for AI, it will be the basic plus plus. Yeah. So the plus plus will be the ethical and the data privacy portion. So I think that is the very first step. Once the board and the senior management endorses such a need, then it can cascade downwards to the people deploying all the tools, right? And also, I think we have to be very clear. If the organization is a very small organization, then I would think that the association, the industry association, like for instance, I'm sure in any country, there is always an association that deals with business leaders, or for professionals, it could be something like ISCA. All the tech professionals come together. So I think organizations would have to work closer with the respective associations to draw the amount of knowledge and learning, from what the community can bring. So I would say these two steps are primary, in my opinion. At the same time, easy to implement. I don't believe in doing something that is too complex, because the technology itself is already so complex, right? So if you can't keep it simple and keep it transparent, how do you expect other people to understand it, to audit it, and to use it, and to govern it? So these are things that, to me, in my view, as long as you can do it right, then the rest will fall in place, like accountability and the rest will fall in place. But in the first place, if it's so black box, you can't do it right, nobody knows how to respond and react on it. I mean, that's my take.
Quite fantastic, Jenny, and I couldn't agree more that, to actually sort of penetrate into the black box, the tone at the top has to be right, like you said, and then it can have a cascading effect downward. And getting as much help from associations and peer partners who can help you make the right kind of decisions at the top to have that cascading effect down below is a brilliant way to develop these frameworks and the right kind of strategies. Thank you for outlining that as beautifully as you've done.
Thank you.
In your assertion and articulation to this particular question, it's kind of beautifully sets up for the next one, which is balancing innovation and risk mitigation. AI innovation often moves faster than regulatory frameworks can actually keep up. How can organizations actually strike the balance between leveraging AI for competitive advantage while still ensuring that comprehensive risk mitigation strategies are in place?
Yeah. So that's the tricky part, right? Because organizations, especially management, would think that risk and compliance are the roadblocks to innovation. Actually, on the contrary, there have been lots of research that supported risk and compliance measures to actually complement innovation and not holding innovation back. So I think it's the way that it's being organized again. So, for instance, if an organization wants to make sure that whatever that they innovated, the product can meet certain risk standards, I would think that there must be, in the first place, a very good risk culture. So as long as there is a very good risk culture ingrained in the developer, be it a citizen developer or a professional developer, I would think that as a normal human being, you would always design something that is not at the expense of the organization, right? Because you want to protect the organization. So I think that is the very first part that organization can do. That means to promote very simple yet very core and critical risk awareness and risk culture to its people. This is one thing. The other one is also the way that I would say the innovation project committee there should be someone sitting in the committee who wears either the risk hat or the ethics hat, right? Yeah. So in that sense, when the person evaluates the project, such a component is not being mixed up. Because a lot of times you see a lot of committees, especially technology or implementation committees, they are very technical. They are only concerned with the efficiency and effectiveness of the function that a particular product has to have. Yeah, but there wasn't anyone, coming from a risk angle or even ethical angle, sitting in the same committee to probe and ask questions in the first place, right? So I think this could be the second strategy that any organization can have. You don't have to spend money to slow down this whole thing, because the project has to go through this committee anyway. So you get evaluated concurrently. Yeah. So that I think can help mitigate such an issue the organization may face. The third one I would say is definitely, again, tie back to my very first question, where the tone at the top has to be right. Yeah. So if, let's say, the tone at the top is not correct, I doubt the project team will be able to embrace risk by design into their product, because the KPI will be set wrongly. So the KPI may be, the amount of time that can launch into the market, right? So in such a KPI, there's nothing wrong with it if you think back, but it's just that it is too transactional, too project implementation driven, that it doesn't think about the sustainability, the return impact on the organization, as well as the downtime that if this product is being implemented and it would have caused, other kind of implication that we mentioned in my first question about all the risks that it can bring about, then, this whole project will not have its desired outcome. So I think tone at the top is pretty important, and how the tone at the top set KPI for the project will drive a certain behavior. Yeah. So I think these 3 tips that I can think of. Again, me as a person, I'm someone who likes to keep it simple so that it gets easily executed. It's not like, you talk something so far-fetched, you can't execute it at all.
Absolutely. Well, we're quite brilliant there, and I completely agree with that assertion, Jenny. Having somebody on the team that wears the risk hat, having somebody that wears the ethics hat, and then all of them collaborating towards this end goal that helps you, keep pace with the regulatory structures while still delivering the outcomes that technology in a transparent and simplistic manner can. Very well said, Jenny.
Thank you. I don't want to simplify too much, but at the same time, sometimes I find my peers, they overthink too much, such that it makes implementation and execution so difficult. Yeah, you can't achieve certain outcome.
I agree. Yes, sometimes we plan so well, but then the steps that are involved in the execution part of it create the kind of roadblocks instead of making it more simpler. So breaking it down as nicely as you are and as modularly as we can is the beauty of the entire process. Let's now touch upon the business resilience side of things. And given your experience in business resilience, how can AI-driven solutions actually enhance an organization's ability to navigate risks, and possibly what precautions can be taken to avoid creating new vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I think AI in this aspect in business resilience can play a very big role, especially in terms of getting informed alerts. Yeah. So because of its capabilities, if it's built correctly, definitely there are lots of intelligence that this AI tool can bring about to help the business to stay vigilant, at the same time to preempt the business, the organization to get ready. Yeah. So a lot of, I would say, from the monitoring aspects of things, at the same time, if the intelligence, the intel data can be used to benchmark against certain industry or competition risk, that can also tell a story. Like for instance, we thought that we are functioning well in the let's say in the e-commerce space, for instance. But if you can make use of the internet space and crawl certain data to set you some indication to warn you that, okay, in this internet space, in this e-commerce industry, there has been organizations that maybe let's say hacked or encounter certain issues based on whatever kind of indicators, right? So such intelligence can be fed back to the organization for informed decision. At the same time, to get the incident response team ready, should such things, that they can't build some measures in time to stop it, but at least they are prepared enough to deal with it rather than being caught in a surprise. So I think from the AI perspective, this does help from the business resilience side of things. The other one is, early on I touched a little bit, is more on the predictive nature. So if the AI tool is able to gather enough data to help predict what's next from a risk perspective or from a business perspective, I think this is definitely a wonderful tool to have, because it does tell you that when you make a decision, these are the leading indicators that tells you what to avoid or what to go ahead with.
Quite wonderfully summarized, Jenny. And given the dual nature of AI in resilience, enhancing prediction and adapting to the dependent risks in a twofold approach can actually help, like you outlined. So thank you. Well, that brings me to the final question and also my favorite section of the interview, which is where I like to put people on their feet, and this is a rapid fire of sorts. So answer in about one word or just maybe 3 or 4 words. If you had to summarize the future of risk management in AI in possibly one word or one sentence, what would it be?
I think with the fast pace and evolution of technologies, the one word I can think of for risk professionals or risk management peers would be adaptability. Because only when you are able to adapt quick enough with the changes, then you can act on the feet and protect what you want to protect. Or perhaps even if I can't protect, what I can do is to mitigate the risk, to bring down the damage to its lowest. So I think adaptability is something that all of us need to have in our mind, because like you or not, there are still people who are practicing like I am, but still a very old school kind of concept, right? So I think this work is a dedication to anybody out there that we have to always be ready to face the changes and to manage them properly.
Fantastic. And adaptability is the word of the day today. Thank you, Jenny, for that wonderful interaction and sharing your thoughts like you've done. I couldn't have asked for a better conversation to explore the risk aspect of AI. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been nice being challenged with all these questions on the spot. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jenny. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we've explored the potential of AI, and while it is immense, so are the risks that come with it. Responsible AI adoption requires not only strategic foresight, but ethical frameworks, robust governance, and resilient business mindset. The future of AI hinges on leaders like Jenny, who are actually shaping the path that balances innovation with security, transparency, and accountability to actually deliver the growth with responsibility. Thank you very much for Jenny for joining us on this episode and for sharing your valuable insights.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, to all our viewers who have joined us on today's episode, thank you once again. Let's remember that the future of AI is in our hands, and with the right leadership, we can assure that it shapes a world that benefits us all. So, with that, we request you to please stay tuned for more impactful conversations on the Visionaries in AI series. And do remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay ahead in the rapidly evolving world of AI.